All right, Level Up Grappling Podcast. We are back, bigger and better than ever. And remember, guys, for this year, you have tasks. What are your tasks? Not only to like and subscribe, but every week I want you to share this podcast with 3 new people. We're not asking for a lot, just 3 new people. Every week, pick 3, grab an episode, and send it to them. I don't care what episode you send to them, send them an episode. Something that could maybe they would find entertaining, something that they would find educational. Just send it to them. So, technique talk this week, guys. And what are we doing? We have special people on. Not only do we have Coach Adam, but one of the greatest of all time, the legend himself, Mark Schultz, has been so generous to join us today for Technique Talk. So thank you, Mark, for coming.
No problem.
So we're going to break down some of your questions and see if we can have some good answers for you. Okay. So this first question, which is, I take them from all over the place. So let's see what you guys think of this one. Is head position required for an underhook?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes.
I had put my head against the guy's ear. I have to get the inside position with my head. That gives me the advantage of throwing the underhook over the top of me, going for a high crotch. But if it's not, if he's got head position, there are things I can do from there, like ankle picks, and there's things you can do from every position. But I think as a basic beginner wrestler, I would get the head on the inside position and then use that to go for a high crotch. If you're just beginning, that's what I would teach my beginners.
I would agree with that. I'd say yes. For me, I have a little personal thing where I like to jam it just under the point of the jaw here, right where the bend in the jaw is. I like to get my forehead in there and really grind away at it. Tends to turn them that little bit to the side and cut that angle a bit, which makes that high crotch easier to drive through. I'm a little bit of an arsehole like that, but
That's exactly right. If you want to be an asshole, I had a heavyweight that did this to me. Every time he got that underhook, he would drive his forehead into my jaw on the side like that.
Mhm.
And my jaw cracks to this day because of what he did to me.
Yep. That's me. I'm that guy.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. We call it the Billy Goat here. So I teach everybody because I can't yell and say headbutt. So when we're doing matches and stuff like that, I tell everybody Billy Goat, Billy Goat. I call it the Billy Goat. So it is imperative for me. Like when I teach, I go, you guys need to drive in with that head, Billy Goat the fuck out of them, and dominate that inside position. That's
Yeah,
how I
you
want
gotta
it.
be willing to sacrifice your head. There was a guy named Al Betcher. He wrestled for Southern Oregon College back when I just started wrestling. And this guy was a terrible wrestler. But he had one thing that he was willing to sacrifice, and that was his head. And if you look at his picture, he took third in the national NAIs back then. If you look at all the pictures of the wrestlers on the room where all the All Americans are, everybody, if you look at his picture, his face and his head has got all these knots and bruises and bumps on him and everything. And he basically headbutted his way to a third place in the NAIs. Terrible technician, but he was willing to sacrifice his head. And I thought, man, if I just am more willing to sacrifice my head than my opponent, that gives me a tremendous advantage. And one thing I would do is I would lower my eyes about 2 inches below my opponent's eyes, because the hardest part of the human body is right here. On the softest spots, or one of them, is right here. And what's the difference? It's like 2 inches. So, yeah, that'll give you an advantage.
Indeed.
Very much so. So
It's kind of a dirty
here's
trick.
well, but it's hey,
It's all
You can
dirty
use it. It's
tricks when it
usable.
comes to war.
Yeah, why not
Wrestling-
use it?
Yeah, wrestling's war. Grappling's
Wrestling is war.
Absolutely.
I actually know of a couple of brothers that were very famous for grabbing double wrist locks, ripping the shit out of them.
You just can't care very much.
You have to. It is war. Look, wrestling's war. It is what it is. We use the confines of rules to pacify the beginners or whatnot, but wrestling is a killing art. It is a martial art.
Especially if you
It is
play
what it is.
somebody on the concrete.
Oh, you kill him. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the number one move I teach all my wrestlers. I'm kidding. But that's
the number
actually
one. Strange. It's the number one move I teach mine too.
Okay, so here's an interesting one. And this is following up from the other underhook question. So it says most wrestlers are right-handed. Okay, well, most people are right-handed. It's like 70% people are right-handed. What are the pros and cons of using a right side underhook versus a left side underhook?
Well, I'm right-handed, and my brother was ambidextrous because he had dyslexia when he was a kid. Everyone thought he was retarded because he couldn't read. Because dyslexia, it's where one side of your brain takes dominance. And so if I'm right-handed, that means I'm left brain dominant. If I'm left-handed, that means I'm right brain dominant. Dave's brain never took dominance. So when he was reading, the letters P, Q, D, B, they would flip up and down and back and forth, and he couldn't make sense of anything he was reading. So people thought he was retarded, but actually dyslexics are more intelligent than average people. So they put him in these remedial reading classes. He hated that. Well, when he grew up, that actually became an advantage. He would write with his left hand, but he would kick with his right foot and he would shoot with his right eye. But when he got into wrestling, he could do moves equally well to both sides. He could arm throw just as good from the left and the right side. So it became a huge advantage. And I wish I was ambidextrous like that. I wasn't.
I am. I do exactly the same thing. I'm dyslexic as well. I write with my left hand, I kick with my right foot, and I can throw both sides.
Wow.
The same,
That's
no
amazing.
different.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am not dyslexic and I'm definitely right-handed, but, and this could be just from how I grew up training judo. There's certain techniques that I do better on my right side than on my left side. And because as a striker, I always fought orthodox, so my left side going forward, but my wrestling side is right side dominant. So I just evolved myself and I guess you can say hybridized myself to certain things that I like better on my left, certain things I like better on my right. Like as an example, I love when somebody comes in on a right underhook on me because my left overhook is better than my right overhook. So I prefer that, but I prefer my right underhook to a left underhook. So, I it's it's really one of these wacky things where there's certain things I'll do off of my right versus off my left. My sumigaeshi is always I like off my right side. I can do them both sides equally proficient, but my setup is off my right side, and then I play, the crossbody ride off their left, which is much harder when you get into jujitsu, right? Everybody has typically, look, when you think about this, most people pass to the right side. If you pass to the left side, they typically have a weaker response rate.
You mean pass the guard?
Yeah, pass the guard. Right. So it's the same thing when I hit my sumigaeshi and I throw them, I'm going to end up where? In their left side crossbody ride, their side control. And I found it to be much easier for me to control somebody off their left side versus their right side because of how they're framing and transitioning.
Yeah. I think you could scout people a little bit easier if you knew which hand was dominant for that person. Most people are right-hand
Yeah,
dominant, but with Adam
correct.
being dyslexic, when you discovered when did you discover you were dyslexic, Adam?
Primary school.
What?
So, like, primary school, which is
Oh, primary. Yeah, yeah,
elementary
yeah.
school for you guys, is it? Like third
Yeah,
grade?
yeah.
Yeah, 1st, 2nd, 3rd is elementary school.
Yeah,
4th,
that's
5th,
when
6th is also.
the teachers, they
Did
just
the
go,
teachers think you
you're
were
not getting it.
retarded or something?
Yeah, they actually thought that because I had ADHD, people still think I'm retarded, Mark. What are you talking about? They
In
thought that
America,
because I
they
had
were so
ADHD, I had
what?
ADHD too. I had ADHD as well. I still have it. So they thought I was just a troublemaker.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
they thought that I was dumb, but they thought that I liked to make trouble as well.
well, dyslexics are actually more intelligent. So, when you were being told that you were retarded or stupid or just whatever, how did you take it, and how and when did you realize that you realized you had dyslexia when you were in what, the 3rd grade, you said? You were
That's what they told me
diagnosed?
because I ended up getting diagnosed with it by a pediatrician. Yeah, dyslexic and ADHD.
Okay. But in jujitsu, it's an advantage, isn't it? I mean, Bruce Jenner's a dyslexic. Most dyslexics are very talented. Did that become an advantage for you?
Yeah, I think it did, like in grappling and in Muay Thai and stuff like that when I fought Muay Thai, because I would switch it. I would start orthodox and then switch right hand forward and I'd fight exactly the same. It didn't matter whether I was left hand forward or right hand forward. I could throw punches, kicks exactly the same. It didn't matter. I was ambidextrous on everything, even in wrestling, right leg forward, left leg forward, didn't matter.
You lead with your left leg or right leg?
In wrestling, when I wrestle, I lead
Yeah.
with my right leg.
Okay, that's different than me. My brother left with his left leg like I did, and he was left-handed, but he was also right-footed. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Anyway,
but look,
that's
I switch it up.
interesting.
Like as I say, I'll start with right foot forward, then I'll switch my left forward and change my head position, and I just keep moving wherever.
So
Like
do you have
whatever
a
comes
different
around, that's I'll
stance?
just
Is your
I'll just
jujitsu
Yeah,
stance
like
different than your wrestling stance?
yeah, because I have a judo black belt as well. So if it's the gi, I tend to stand up a little straighter. Yeah, from the judo and the sambo. So I'll stand up a touch straighter. I'm much more bent at the knees in wrestling, a much lower stance, and that's the Eastern European thing because I learned off Eastern Europeans and Middle Eastern guys for wrestling. Their big rule was, try and get your eyes to their chest. Once you get your eye level to their chest level, shoot. So we're always bending
Did
at the knees, bending at the knees, bending at the knees.
do you know a judoka named Leo White from America? He's
Can't say
won
I
more
do, no.
national titles than any athlete in any sport. Got like 20 something
Wow.
national titles.
Wow.
He kicked my ass in judo when I went to try to learn, but that kinda saved me a little bit. When I had that match with Hickson Gracie in the BYU wrestling room, because I
Mm.
had done judo with Leo, I knew to keep my chin down and my elbows in, and that saved me, numerous times when he was going for double wrist locks or kimuras. Everybody knows that the double wrist lock was changed to the kimura when the Brazilians came to America. But before they came here, we all called it the double wrist lock. He was trying to do that to me a bunch of times. I was trying to do it to him too, because that was the only submission hold I knew. He knew what he was doing. That's all he does. So it was hard. I couldn't get him anything. Hickson has Parkinson's. Did you know that?
Yes.
I did
Yeah.
know that, yeah. I saw that.
Oh man, I feel so bad for him. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to take up all this time.
No, it's all good. This is good. Okay, now I already know the answer to this next question because I've studied you extensively, Mark. But I'm going to ask it anyways because I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, and it's important that you share the nuances of what this question is. Okay.
I think I
So
can guess
this
what you're
is a
gonna ask. The front
front
headlock. the
headlock
Schultz front
offense.
headlock.
Okay, here it is.
Go ahead.
When I come out in a front headlock offensive position on my opponent, I always seem to get stuck trying to circle or come around him. I normally get my arms stuck and pulled over, or they just escape. Any moves or tips on front headlock offense?
Yes. The reason your arm is getting stuck is because it's in too deep. You got to pretend like you got little Tyrannosaurus Rex arms when you're doing the front headlock. And you don't put it in very far. You put it in just far enough so that this bone right here lays up against this carotid artery at kind of a 45-degree angle. And then the reason that you're not being able to spin behind, well, if you're going to spin behind, you have to keep your head on top of the guy. If you're going to choke him out in the Schultz front headlock, you don't take your head and you shove it underneath the guy's armpit. And then usually what I'll do, put my arm so it doesn't go in too deep, is I'll grab his chin and I'll put the top of my thumb pad right here against his chin as I'm pulling in, and that way he can't back out of there. And then I do a C-clamp grip. But then when I throw my opponent most people if your head's on top, most people throw their opponent to the side and then jump behind the guy. That's probably the quickest takedown I've ever learned. But if you're going to choke him out, you switch, you take your head, you throw him to the side, and you drop your head down under his armpit so that you're like listening to his armpit with your ear. And then you switch your hands like this. And now you pull everything down, you pull your elbows together down and choke him out. And after he's out cold, throw him to his back and wiggle him around so the ref thinks he's still conscious, and then pin him and then hold on to him. Me and Dave actually did that a few times. I did that in the 83 NCAAs against Bob Haar from Penn State. And he got up and was the most pissed off wrestler I've ever competed against after that. Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know. Do you got anything, Adam?
Look, I tend to find that the people get stuck with that go behind from the front headlock because both arms are jammed inside. Yeah, they got like both arms around their head with their opponent's arms outside their arms, almost like a front face lock. And so anytime they go to move or throw them anywhere, the opponent's just grabbing them around the arms. You know, they tend to close it down. So that's what I find a lot of. So I always tell my guys, if you're taking a front headlock and you're not going for that Schultz choke out headlock, don't jam your head into their armpit. If we're going straight wrestling, I'll say, grab that front headlock, use your elbow to pop that arm under their head. Yeah, just pop it across, then I can pull them across and slide behind them. Yeah, you have to remove that. Whichever way you're going, you need to pop that arm out the way in order to go behind. Otherwise, they're just going to block your arms or underhook you as you go.
You want to know how I learned the front headlock? The Schultz front headlock?
Yes.
That's my brother invented it, but then he taught it to me. I was in the OU wrestling room with him, and I took a shot on him, and he front headlocked me. And most of the time when people front headlock me, I'll wait for them to let go of their grip, and then I'll grab their hands, and I'll start a sit out and get my feet out in front of me and my hips away, my head back, and try to hit him in the face with the back of my head as I'm getting my hips away. and then I'll cut away and escape before he gets the takedown. But my brother was not letting go of the front headlock. And the next thing I knew, I was in this pasture with these cows and these birds and these clouds. And when I woke up, he was standing above me, sweating like crazy, directly into my mouth. So I'm waking up and I'm choking on his sweat. And
Getting waterboarded, Mark.
he goes, "You're pinned." And I was so pissed. I grabbed him by his ears and I headbutted him and I tore my shirt off. And then once I calmed down, I was like, "Okay, how did you do that?" And so he would let me do it to him. And then I said, "Do it to me." And then I said, "Okay, now let me do it to you." And he goes, "Okay, do it to me. Let me do it to you." And back and forth and back and forth. And pretty soon, like 3 months later, I think I knocked him out with it, which was like my birthday and Christmas all rolled into one. But yeah, that was a great day. That I guess you could call it the Dave Schultz front headlock instead of the Schultz front headlock. But I like the. I don't care. But yeah, Dave's the inventor of that.
It works a treat.
Anyway, I just thought it was a funny story. I thought I'd share
That's
with you.
awesome. Yeah. One of the things that I do that I like to teach just because I, don't feel like I have any particular strength or athleticism. And, may be a little bit unconventional, but it works. And I can get beginners to do this and they find a lot of success is we're always circling when we're hitting that front headlock. So I always tell them initiate with the wet willy, right? So when they're grabbing, as an example, if they're grabbing the collar tie, get your middle finger over in their ear, rip their head so their jaw's up more to the sky, and then throw it, right? So as you get their feet off balance, so instead of allowing them to stay linear, circle them out. So as soon as they start to circle, they have to recalibrate their balance. So then as you take that front headlock and we sink in that Schultz headlock very, very quick, we hit that position very quickly, we still corkscrew down. So it's a constant corkscrew, 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 corkscrew. So they're never able to regain their position. They can't regain their footing. So once we have that down, by the time we hit it, I love to go and hit my head in the middle once I get them on their knees because they don't know, they can't stabilize. And then once we shoot it and cut it, they're usually choking on the roll, right? Or if we go hit the go behind, the thing that I've noticed when people try to go behind is they allow the opponent's arm to come out because they don't hit like a flipper drag where they're not blocking the tricep to circle around. And a lot of times I see them fail because if they let go and you're not already kind of standing out, I guess you can say posting out with your trail leg on an angle, it's easier for them to kind of grab and counter. So I was always looking for ways to maximize my Schultz headlock with the limited amount of, I guess you can say, athleticism and skill, so to speak, that I had, right? And especially over the years, since I've always had really bad shoulders for 30 years, except now that they're basically fixed, thanks to Rejuve anti-aging and their stem cells.
Oh, wow.
I did the stem cells. Yes. You like that little plug, guys?
Yes.
Great.
That helped me a lot.
Man, I should let everybody know during the 1984 Olympics, because Dave was doing that front headlock so much, FILA, the world governing body at the time, actually made an international rule against cutting the corner like Dave does to do the Schultz front headlock. So you can't do that in wrestling anymore. Well, I think they probably forgot about it. And that was, 20, 50 years ago. So you might be able to get away with it again. But yeah, there's an international rule against that, or there was. And I would just keep doing
Isn't
it
that
until
funny?
you get caught.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, you have to. I just think it's so efficient. It's interesting, Mark. You make a really good point. How often these governing bodies change rules when somebody is too dominant
That's
to
exactly
almost
right.
level the playing field. They did the same thing. There was a young lady in judo, Yarden Gerby, Israeli judoka. She was so successful with what they called it the Gerby choke. And it was just wrapping lapel from Turtle and how she would sit back and choke everyone that they said, okay, we're banning the Gerby choke because she literally kicked the shit out of every girl. It was the same setup. She was choking everybody out. And because it was too dominant, same thing with the leg grabbing in judo, right? Really annoyed me. I still teach leg grabs when I'm teaching judo. I don't give a shit. I could care less what the rules are. I want the proper techniques. But it's every single time these stupid governing bodies, when they see something too successful, they want to ban it.
That's right.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I've had 2 moves of mine banned or restricted by the world governing body. The first was the double wrist lock, which I did on the Turk. And to be honest, I think they made that rule up after the fact. I don't think there was a rule against it before then. I think they just made it up afterwards, and then they disqualified me using that rule. And the other one was the gut wrench. I had a really good gut wrench. In 1983, I gut wrenched the world champion 4 times, and I lost to him by 1 point. And the very next year, they limited the number of gut wrenches you could do in a row before you had to score another point before you could do any more gut wrenches. It seemed like they were making all these rules against Americans simply because they were working. Look at what happened to Rulon Gardner the year after he beats Karillon. They lowered the heavyweight limit to 265. Rulon's like 290 or something. That's just, it's typical. The world governing body is stacked with countries or representatives of countries that are from dominant wrestling countries like Dagestan and Russia, Georgia, and all these former Soviet bloc countries. Americans don't have a chance because there's just not enough people in the world governing body anymore. It's not called FILA anymore. It's the UWW now. I think they had to change it because of all the corruption.
That's exactly why they changed it.
Yes.
So I have a technical question for you, Mark. What made your gut wrench so successful?
I would take this bone, same bone I used on the front headlock, and I would put it. First, I'd grab his hips and I'd dig my fingers in right here at the inguinal canals, and then
Okay.
I would get him to pop his hips up and as soon as he popped his hips up, I'd pull him up, and then I'd relock my hands, and I would take this bone and I would put it underneath the floating rib. All men have that half rib at the bottom of their rib cage. I'd put this right against that floating rib, and then I'd take my far shoulder, my left shoulder. If I got this on the right side, I'd take my left shoulder and I would squeeze my left shoulder and my right wrist in together, and that would not only squeeze all the organs inside of his rib cage, but it would also, like, you're trying to break that half rib with that thing. It's the same dilemma I came up with. I had to deal with when Dave would throw legs in on me. He would arch his back so hard, and I was left with the decision: am I going to fight this, or am I going to let him paralyze me, or am I going to turn over and let him pin me? Well, that's kind of when you get to the world level of international wrestling, wrestlers don't give up points unless there's usually, unless there's some pain involved, and it's very difficult to score on somebody really good without inflicting some kind of pain. Like me and Dave, we had this leg breaker. We called it when we get the low ankle up really high, and then we would go against the joint as we're kicking out the other leg from underneath him. And these guys in the international world championships, their balance is so good. They could bounce around on one leg forever. So you got to think of some way to get them down without to take away that advantage. And usually it involves some kind of pain. I mean, you got to stay within the rules. That's the thing about wrestling is there's a lot of rules. So you take the violence up to the level where you're about to cross the line and break the rule, and then you have to back off. Wrestlers are actually masters of self-control. A lot of people think wrestlers are these, mindless brawlers. People used to make that assumption about me because of the way I was built and because of the way Dave was built. He wasn't very muscular. He didn't really look like a wrestler. I don't know, chemistry professor or something. But he had this incredible strength that he would just like he could break your back if you let him. You look at that match that he had against Nate Carr in the U.S. Open Finals. He's doing that move. The one I'm talking about right now, he's doing that move to Nate. And man, I know exactly the way Nate felt while he was turning over and getting pinned because Dave would do that to me all the time. I think that's why my lower back's still screwed up right now.
45 years later, why not?
Like,
okay, next question. So here's a young man who went in his high school career. He was basically 18-3 in his JV wrestler, and his consistent win was with a blast double. But now that he's gotten to varsity, he's had more of a 50-50 record, 12-10 so far. And it's hard for him to finish his double due to hard sprawls, and he can't drive through, and he ends up getting thrown on his back. So he says he's been starting now to initiate more with high crotches and singles. So he's trying to mix it up a little bit. But he thinks maybe his hand fighting could be a lot better, and he's looking to improve. I guess you can say, as I translate this, he's looking to improve his chain wrestling. And he would like to know, what can he do to improve his chain wrestling to increase his success in the varsity level so he can kind of match his success, but obviously he's going to need to diversify his wrestling. So what would you say to that?
Well, if you look at the most dominant wrestler in U.S. history, Jordan Burroughs, he has probably the most basic, straightforward double leg takedown of anybody I've ever seen. Everybody knows he's got it, but they still can't stop it. And he's very good at getting both legs at the same time. Personally, I was always trying to go for both legs. What you're trying to go for is you're trying to get your hands locked around their hips. And if you can get both legs and then lock your hands, you can take him down or you can work your way up to his hips. But I didn't get both legs when I shot very much. I'd go for both, but then one hand would slip off and I'd lock my hands around one leg. And I'd either end up with a single or a high crotch. The only difference between a single and a high crotch is your head's on the inside on a single and outside on a high crotch. I mean, that's terminology. So I would try to go for both, and then I would usually end up with one. but I was still constantly trying to get my arms wrapped around their hips, because that's the most dominant position you can be in a fight or a wrestling match or jujitsu, is you can go behind them, you can back supply them, you can lift them and slam them. There's all kinds of things you can do after you lock your hands. And that's the thing about freestyle. Freestyle, you can lock your hands. Collegiate, you cannot lock your hands if you're on the mat. You can lock your hands if you're on the feet, but not on the mat. And so they made that rule because there was a guy back in the 1950s who won the NCAAs basically by just not letting his opponent go. He'd lock his hands, and the guy could not get his hands unlocked. It's very difficult to unlock somebody's hands once their hands are locked, especially with a C-clamp grip where the tips are covering each other. You know? If you want, the only way to really break somebody's lock in a situation like that is to grab one finger, peel it away, break it, or grab another finger and peel that away, and grab another finger, peel that away. And I would tell my wrestlers, look, if the guy has got his hands locked and you can't break it, bend over, hide the guy's hands and your hands from the referee, and then start digging your thumb in until you grab one finger, and then peel it away. Grab another finger, peel it away, grab another one, peel it away, grab another one, peel it away. And now you got all four fingers, and then you can come out and be like, hey, look, ref, I got all four fingers. And then you can start your escape. But freestyle doesn't have that rule. You can lock your hands and slam. Collegiate, you can't lock your hands or slam. But if you don't have collegiate wrestling, you don't know how to ride or escape. And riding and escaping is a very big part of fighting in martial arts. Because if you look at a guy like Yoel Romero, who's the world champion from Cuba, he got beat in the UFC because he couldn't get away from the bottom. Freestylers, if you're an international freestyle wrestler, you're not being taught how to escape from the bottom or how to ride from the top. Whereas a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he takes you down, he throws legs, he wraps you up with his legs, and he punches you to death while he's riding you with his leg ride. That's really, personally, I think that's the most effective style to win in the UFC. But that's within the rules of the UFC. There's about 31 rules in the UFC. If you want to know the best moves to do in martial arts, look at all the moves that are banned in the UFC. Those are the moves you should be doing in a street fight. Biting and eye gouging, groin shots, stuff like that.
Adam, what say you?
Look, I guess his record is going to change from high school to college, I'm assuming, is it? In Australia, we don't have that whole system. So he's going to varsity. I'm assuming it's college. So junior varsity to varsity, correct?
Yeah.
Obviously,
we call it high school, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, whichever it is. So going from high school to college, one, you're going to have better athletes. You're going to have them coming from different areas. You're going to have better wrestlers for a start. So naturally, if all you've done is rely on a blast double, people are going to start to sprawl a lot more and be better at it. I guess for me, my thing would be, before slamming a blast double or anything, learn to cut angles.
Yes.
Yeah. So the whole thing, and this is the way I teach my guys to shoot blast doubles rather than shots. Yeah, the big running blast double. I teach a upper tier, so from the shoulders to the top of the head, a triangle. Yeah, that's the upper tier. Across the waist down to the groin is the lower tier. Okay, these are where we control the upper body or the lower body. In order for me to hit a good blast double, I need to remove everything in the upper tier, which is all my defenses, my hands, my forearms, my shoulders, my head. I need to clear it all. And the way you can do that is Like with your hand, get good hand fighting, get good at hand fighting, moving to one side, get that head control in, and then shoot your blast double. Otherwise, you're just running against a brick wall. If you're just shooting a blast double and hoping for the best, as you get up to better wrestlers, it's not going to work. Yeah, unless, like Mark said, you're Jordan Burroughs, who everybody knows he's going to do it, but they can't stop it. And that's very rare. Yeah, that's a rare thing to be Jordan Burroughs. But for your average guy who's starting to move up into these things, learn to remove that upper tier to one side, get rid of it out the way, and then shoot your blast double. You got to remember, if somebody's like this, it's really hard for them to sprawl. Yeah, my spine needs to be in a straight line in order for me to sprawl really well. So as soon as I twist that spine and deactivate it and I pushed into the side, now I can shoot the blast double here. Yeah, and I can't really sprawl. I'm going to sprawl out sideways if I do, which means you're just going to blast through it anyway. Yeah, he needs to learn. My suggestion would be learn to hand fight better to clear the upper tier in order to attack the legs. That would be the daily advice I would have.
I agree with
Yeah.
what both of you guys are saying. I think cutting angles is so important, and the hand fighting, the art of the hand fighting. I think that there's just what I see on the high school level, because, I'm involved. There's too much linear thinking, and there's not a lot of engagement with head position and hand fighting. So when you add basically three fundamental concepts: hand fighting, head position, and footwork, right? Cutting angles, you can really diversify your game tremendously. Tremendously. And on the high school level, what I have seen is that they're so obsessed with what we would call leg diving, or just hitting a double or stuff like that, in this linear approach, that they are removing fundamental concepts that, if you were going to do that, would make it more successful, but at the same time, you're not reliant. So very similar to you, Adam. I actually teach it in basically 3 tiers. So we have below the waist, that's section 1. Section 2 is waist to shoulders, waist to the armpit, right? Because I look at, from a judo perspective, also I look at the armpit throws, or Greco, how we're controlling the shoulder joints, and then shoulders to the head, right? So I go in 3s. The other thing that I do, which is, I haven't seen it. I'm sure other people do it, but I haven't seen it. I use boxing codes when I'm setting up wrestling techniques with my students. It's 5. I just number 1 through 5. So 1 is the ankle, and it goes all the way up to 5 at the head. So each joint, because I use the joint ladder technique that I was taught by Billy Robinson. So 1 is the ankle, 2 is the knees, 3 is the hips, 4 is that shoulder area, right? We have the hands. So I look at that whole piece from the shoulder to the hand. I look at that as 1, 5 is the head. So if I say to somebody, if I say I want a 5-1, basically I want a collar tie to a foot sweep.
Wow.
Right? So they know exactly what I'm talking about. But instead of me trying to use different types of names of moves, once I show them the concept of how to lock something in, I just call out the numbers, and I call out the sequence of the numbers, and all of a sudden they're hitting combinations. But the first things first, to what you guys were saying, is they have to know the fundamentals of movement: hand fighting movement, head position. They got a billy goat. So for us, we're really heavy on headbutting, but headbutting billy goat style, exactly what Mark was saying. I want you 2 inches below, right? And start driving. We got to drive into the jaw. Again, take them out of spinal alignment. So everything that you guys are saying, it's mission critical. You must take them out of spinal alignment. You must be able to move on your feet. I don't like linear entries. I want angles. Cut the angles, move, tie them up, and start hitting your combinations. So what I noticed is, as soon as I started using boxing code for wrestling entries, where all they need to do is focus on what joints they're tying up, changed everything.
Wow. That's cool. I never heard of that. That's interesting.
I tried to find a simpler way to do stuff, but because I had a striking background for so many years, I'm like, how come I'm not just using boxing codes for wrestling? And then as soon as I put that together, I was like, I saw the change. I literally saw the change in how these guys were attacking and how they were competing. Right. So then all of a sudden they're like, Coach, you made this so much easier for me to understand. Because if I yell out, get the high crotch, get the double, get the high, everybody knows the other coaches go, sprawl, sprawl. He's going for the high crotch. He's going for this, going for that. But if I tell you I want a 2-3-1, you know, you're shooting in, you're grabbing the knee, then you're wrapping up the hip, and then you're grabbing the ankle. Right. So you know exactly what to do based on the numbers that I'm calling out and exactly how to chain it together. And it's much quicker.
Without knowing how that kid, that JV kid that went to varsity is doing his double leg, it might help him to realize that locked hands are like 1,000 times stronger than unlocked hands. So when you're going for a double, try to lock your hands. And if you can't, lock your hands around one leg. And I did a video one time with Cale Sanderson, and it was called the Schultz front headlock. And at the end of that, I asked him, how do you do that low single? And he said, I just do a lot of fakes. And that resonated with me because that's the way I would usually shoot also. I would fake, the guy would sprawl, and as he's coming back up to his feet, I'd shoot again. And you just gotta break the rhythm. You know, make your opponent think that you're in a certain rhythm, and then you break your own rhythm, and that's more effective. I don't know if that answers the kid's question or not.
I think it's excellent, Mark. In music, what we call that is polyrhythms. So how I would explain that as a musician into wrestling, and it would actually make perfect sense. Western music is typically based on what's called 4/4 time. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's a standard beat. So everybody knows when you hear pop music, rock music, doesn't matter what it is, it's always in 4 time, 4/4 time. So it's the same rhythm over and over and over again. So creating a polyrhythm would be, instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe you're doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're changing the rhythms against a standard beat. So if you know that you have a beat of 4, that this person has a particular pace, because everybody has their pace. And once you change the rhythm of your pace, you have to be very conversant in creating polyrhythms. And so once you create a polyrhythm, and me as a musician, that's one of the things that I do, to your point, Mark, is I explain it based on drum beats. And so once we include polyrhythms into a match, it's very easy to get somebody out of sync.
There was a boxer whose dad was a jazz musician. I think his name was it began with G, I think Gonzaga or something like that. And he actually used jazz music to get his son to, punch using the rhythms of jazz. And, in jazz, it's all improvised. They break their own rhythms. They're constantly just doing and I think that would help that kid a lot to incorporate, musical elements into his wrestling game. It helped me a lot when I started doing that. I can't hardly even work out without music anymore. But yeah. But yeah, it's creating a rhythm and then breaking it. There was a 105-pound world champion in 1987. Me and him got sent to the drug testing room at the same time. We were asked, do you want to we had to pee, and they go, "You want water, juice, or beer?" And we're like, "Oh, we just won, so it's like beer, of course." So we're drinking all this beer. And they would ask us, "You wanna pee yet?" And we wanted more free beer, so we kept even though we had to pee, we were like, "No, we need more free beer." So we're drinking all this beer, and now we're drunk as a skunk, and every time he said something, I'd laugh my ass off, and every time I said something, he'd laugh his ass off. I don't know why, but, probably because we were both drunk, but then they gave us the bottles to pee in, and we started peeing in these bottles, and we're so drunk, we're spilling it all over the floor and getting it on our hands, getting it on the tester's coat. Anyway, that 105-pound wrestler was so good. He's the only guy I've ever seen who could shoot a double leg off of both legs. He didn't have a lead leg. He'd have a square stance. He would drop down like a frog and he would attack. And if his attack failed, he'd just recover with his front hands, reset like a frog again, and shoot again. And he would just go across the mat like boing, 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 boing. And he just he just came back. He was down 6-0. It was North Korea versus South Korea in the finals. South Korean got him in an alligator death roll. You know about this, Adam. And he got him twice, and it was 6-0. And that North Korean came back with these frog hop doubles. So to answer that kid's question, I would just say experiment with different kinds of double legs if that's your favorite takedown. Double leg is a beautiful takedown. It really is. It's the most control you can have. But try shooting off, like they said, break the rhythm, get angles, and then experiment with different types of shooting techniques. You got to experiment.
Excellent. Okay, let's switch to some jiu-jitsu questions. So let's go with something that I think is very common. Mark, what would you say to somebody who really gets stuck in the closed guard and they want to have a very consistent closed guard pass? Where would you have them start from passing the closed guard?
Well, I would either dig my elbows into his legs to get him to break his lock around my back. You can do it a lot of different ways. You can use both elbows at the same time, one after the other. You could start beating his legs up with your elbows, but you can put one of your legs up and drive the guy's leg off of you with one elbow or the other. And as soon as he breaks his lock, underhook that leg and throw him head over heels by passing the guard. Yeah, or is he just talking? What was is the question just about
So
passing the guard?
basically, passing the guard from the closed guard, because I
Yeah,
get this question all the time,
Yeah,
how can I pass the closed guard with more consistency?
yeah,
Because you see a lot of guys, especially beginners, they get frustrated because they get stuck in this stalemate in the closed guard.
yeah. Just use your elbows. Very few people can stop you from breaking their lock, their closed guard. If you're jamming them in the legs with your elbows, the elbows are sharp. What do you think, Adam?
Look, I agree with you 100%. Elbows are sharp. That whole passing by attrition thing, it works a treat. I would add to that, like when I'm teaching beginners, especially white belt, blue belt guys about different passes and ways to get rid of the closed guard. If I'm not stepping completely over into like a half Boston or something like that, into leg locks and all that sort of weird shit, and we're working with beginners, I guess the standard foundational fundamentals is always the same. I will control the hips. The most important thing that I see with beginners where they're not opening the closed guard is they have no control of the guard, the person who's holding guard's hips. So they let them ride up their legs and all, lift their bum off the ground or their butt off the ground. There's no pressure there. Yeah, you're never going to open legs when their butt's off the ground. The most important thing is keeping those hips on the ground, then sliding. The higher you go up the leg towards the knee with that elbow, the more pressure on the legs. Yeah, I also see that whole, exactly what Mark's saying with the elbows in pressing on the legs, they tend to press further up towards the groin. And it's not creating any real pressure against each other. So what I like to do is what I call a hip pin pass. So if somebody's got closed guard on me, I'll basically lift the leg, drive my knee sort of around and pin the hip to the ground with my knee. Yeah, so if it's my right knee on their left hip, basically, then I'll dig my right elbow into the top of their leg where their knee is, and I just literally reach across and push the opposite knee apart, and their legs just pop open because their hips are controlled. The pressure is going in opposite directions, like I'm making a wish with their legs, yeah, and then I can just slip my left leg through and just knee cut straight through there. It's really, even down to the most basic gi pass, I still have the palm, the heel of my palms into their hip bone before I start pressing. Yeah, a lot of I see so much with beginners, they press those elbows in but allow the hips all this movement. And you can press till the cows come home. If those hips are coming off the ground, it's really hard to open them. Yeah, they've got to keep those hips down in order to create that pressure that Mark's talking about with the elbows.
Yeah, hip control is key.
Yeah, and sticking one leg in their groin or one knee in their groin, and then, reaching back and feeling which one of their feet is over the top of the other one. If you can figure out which one's over the top, you can underhook that, and you can pass the guard with just their ankle from.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me ask you a question, Mark. When you do that and you're putting that, create what I call it like an L pass, where you're putting the knee into, basically you're initiating that knee into the tailbone. If you put the knee there and you reach back, if you turned to the wrong side and you're on the side where the ankle is under, you're on the underneath ankle side, how do you switch to get to the top ankle side?
Well,
because you're reaching back, right? So basically
Yes.
what happens is, if my right knee is in the middle, my right arm is forward and my left arm is back. But if it's the ankle that's underneath, how do I switch back to the other side?
Yeah. Well, you put let's say I got my right knee in his groin. I try to squeeze my knees together, pull the right knee out, and stick the left knee in, and then reach back with my right hand and see which foot is on top.
Gotcha.
But if I can break
That makes
his
sense.
lock completely, which is almost impossible to stop if you're using both your elbows, and you're also pushing with your hands on his hips, or once his lock breaks, you can either pass guard or go for some sort of ankle lock or heel hook or whatever.
Mark, do you prefer an underpass versus an overpass, or what's
Yes.
your preferred way?
Yeah.
You like going under?
I know some people say, well, that'll open you up to a triangle or something, but if you do it hard enough, he's not going to get you in a triangle, and then you'll be in a cross body ride, and then you can switch to like a regular headlock. Or what do you guys call, if I have somebody in a headlock, like a wrestling headlock, and then he's like pushing away on my face, and then I pop his elbow inside, and now I'm squeezing his head and his arm together. What do you call that in Australia?
Basically, an arm triangle. or head and arm
An arm-
choke, arm
Okay,
triangle.
yeah. That's I think it's an underutilized technique that, because when you get off to the side in a headlock and you can get your hips away and he can't like wrap up your legs or with his legs because your hips are too far away, it's almost impossible to stop me from doing an arm triangle. If he does, the counter to the arm triangle is they put their hand against their ear. But I invented a counter to that. If somebody puts their hand against their ear, I just grab that hand and pull it away from their ear against their elbow joint, and they'll tap right.
That'll rip it.
Right there.
Yeah.
Does that have a name?
Vicious.
Do you have a name?
Not that I know. Yeah, the Mark Schultz counter. The Mark
There
Schultz
you go.
elbow lock.
Yeah.
It seems like every 5 years or so, they change the names of the moves. So like when I'm out teaching and doing seminars or whatever, I just be like, here, this is what I'm going to show you. I don't know what you guys call it here. I don't know what the new terminology for this is, but this is what we're going to do. I just show the technique, call it whatever you want, because I cannot keep up with how many names have changed. Like it's fundamentally the names are completely different than it was 30 years ago. And really about every 5 years, they change the names because everybody wants to pretend they invented it. I was like, bullshit. We were doing that 25 years ago and we called it this or whatever. It's like when they called the wrestler's guillotine the twister, right?
Exactly.
It's a wrestler's guillotine.
That's right. That's
I know it as a Greek cross.
There you go.
Yeah, we called it a Greek cross.
That's what you call the guillotine? The Greek cross? Wow.
Yeah. Great cross.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo really screwed things up when he called that twister. I was like, hey, that's first time I saw that, I was like, hey, that's just a guillotine. What are you doing? Anyway, Eddie Bravo's great.
All those damn names. All those damn names, man. And it's just like I said, every few years they change the names or they call something anew. Like we were making a joke about, I keep making a joke about this one because I still kind of don't really understand what the hell they're talking about. The honey hole.
I don't even know what it is.
That sounds sexual to me.
Oh, yeah. It's
me too.
They say, oh, we get in the honey hole and then you can do this. I'm like, I do not know what the hell a honey hole is.
And I definitely ain't getting into it.
Yeah, it sounds very kinky, and I don't know if I want to get there with another guy, but that's a real popular position to get into these days is the honey hole.
What's the position?
To get a move. I don't know. It's something where it's kind of some kind of scissor where it's like a, dare I say, like a lesbian leg scissor, where you kind of getting in the middle, if I understand this correctly, and you roll over and then you get in the middle to get a footlock. It's like some kind of weird transition thing. If I understand correctly, I could be completely wrong. And I guarantee you there's going to be somebody in the comments or email me and they say, hey, idiot, that's not what a honey hole is. Fine, it's not what a honey hole is. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit what a honey hole is. Because all I want to do is get on top of you and ride the shit out of you. So if you want to play footsies and lay on your ass with somebody else, that God bless you. That's on you. It's not for me. But it's definitely not a position where it's a top ride at all. It's some weird thing where you're both laying on each other's backs and you're kind of rolling around together and you're trying to duck in between their legs, if I understand. I could be wrong. These names have really caused a lot of chaos, especially for those of us in older generations. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I get questions all the time. What about this or what about that? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I tell them, send me a video and I'll tell you how to stop it. If you just send me I need to see what the movement is. I don't give a fuck what the name is. 9 times out of 10, it's just like, control the top foot there, pin it to the floor, and then you're done. You don't have to deal with it. Oh, but what if I want to get it back on him? Get on top. Get in a top ride. I mean, let's make this simple. Stop fucking around where you guys are playing footsies or doing this or that or anything and honey holing each other. Just get in a top ride, please. And be done with it.
Grind them through the mat and be done with it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They're overcomplicating something that could be very simple.
Very common.
Schultzify them. Wrap them up. That's right. Schultzify it. Wrap them up, cradle them, pin them, and fucking cause them pain and make them walk away crying. That's it. So simple.
Schultzified. You have now been Schultzified.
Schultzified. You've been Schultzified. Schultzified the whole thing. You're good to go. All right. This is good. Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Did you want to say something else real quick?
I was going to say that to that kid that is having trouble. It really helped me a lot to write my own technique book. I wrote my own book. I wrote it when I was 16, and I divided the moves by tie-up. Like underhook was one, and I would dedicate an entire page to that one tie-up. And I'd put underhook on the top of the page, and then I'd write all the finishes below that. And then on the back of that page, I would write all the counters to the underhook. And then the next page, I'd have overhook, next page over under, next page double over, next page double under, next page single leg, next page high crotch, next page double leg. And then I'd have another page for breakdowns from behind, another page for reversals, another page for pinning combinations. And I came to the realization that there's really only 7 different categories of ways to finish any leg attack. And I'd be happy to tell you guys what they are, but I really think that would help, because a lot of times when I'm in a like, let's say I shoot on some guy and I end up in a high crotch and I don't know what to do, the page will flash into my mind, and then I'll have like a whole series of like a menu of moves to choose from. And it's easy to remember because it's my book. You know, if it's your work, you're going to remember it. So it really helped me a lot to do that. And also to have, like, if you look at the match I had in the finals of the Olympics, before I went out into that match, I had told myself if I was going to I do this thing called a football forearm shiver to a high crotch. If I can get into that high crotch, I'm going to trip that leg that I grabbed with my arms. I'm going to trip it and I'm going to go to a double. And if you look at that match, you'll see that my first 3 takedowns are all the same. It was very efficient to have a planned finish for that tie-up before I got into that tie-up. So there'd be no hesitation between the setup, the penetration, and the finish. It was just one continuous fluid motion, and it was much faster that way. So that's just a tip I would give out to that kid that's having trouble with his double leg.
Excellent advice. When the legend speaks, you listen, kid. So you better take notes here, because you're not getting this for free anywhere else. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
With that, Rejuve Anti-Aging Rancho Santa Margarita. If you need stem cells, go get it done. They did fantastic work on my shoulders. SpartanCans.com. Get your cans. You can get it customized. Discount code LUG. Road Gears with a Z.com. Discount code LUG for all your motorcycle riding paraphernalia. Super cool website. So remember, guys, like and subscribe at every platform. Every week, I need you guys to share with 3 new people. That's all you need to do. Pick an episode. This one is a great one to start with. Technique Talk featuring Mark Schultz. Like and subscribe. Send it to 3 practitioners. That's all you have to do. And every person, if you send it to 3, we will go from 37 countries to, God knows, 100 countries. That's what I want. I want to take over the world with this podcast. And with that, gentlemen, we are out of here.